So hi, everybody. This is Judy Garcia. I'm the career counselor for the College of Science. And so our next informational interview, I'm going to have Jake introduce himself. And Jake, why don't you kind of tell everybody about yourself and your a little bit about your background, and we'll go from there.
Great, thanks. I'm Jake. I graduated in 2011 with an applied math degree, and now I'm an engineering manager at Zoox, leading the robot middleware team. We make the software that connects the different modules on our robots that will one day drive everyone around autonomously. So the way I got started is during the 2007-8 financial crisis. I went back to school to get a math degree because I wanted to write games for a living. But when I was trying to solve things like pathfinding, the research papers I was reading had a lot of math that I didn't understand. And I figured since I had some coding background, but I was lacking the math background, I would get my degree in math. That worked out well for me, specifically at SJSU, because the math faculty are generous in their time to the students, and they were able to help me make the curriculum work for my requirements, so that I could learn the things that I wanted to learn and get the program that I really desired. As I got closer to graduation, I was looking for internships, and due to the financial crisis not having fully lifted yet, there weren't that many around. I remember, talking to ex-ChemCos members and seeing how they got their internships, and asked all of the companies that they had worked for internships, and no one was hiring at that point. So I took it a step further and started volunteering at conferences. Around that time, I also saw a DARPA Grand Challenge video about how Stanford and Volkswagen worked together to win an autonomous drive race through a desert. And so I decided that that was more interesting to me than games. And so I started going to conferences for computer vision, which was more easily approachable because it involved things that you could do with everyday digital cameras. And one conference I went to, doing my usual thing, I would sit down at lunch with the nicest dressed people and ask for their business cards and ask for internships from their email address. And lo and behold, one of the people whose business cards I got was on the very team at Volkswagen that won that DARPA Grand Challenge course. So he interviewed me about a month after other people had told me, look, if you want to do computer vision as an internship, you need more experience. In that month, I was able to start and finish a project with a friend of mine in the program, in the math program, to track some tennis balls in arbitrary video. And that project is what ultimately made the difference between me failing to get this internship and me getting it. So I got an internship on this team. From there, I asked to join the meetings with the Stanford Drive team that they had still on a regular basis. From there, I volunteered to help with a project that they were running. And that got me a co-authorship on a paper at an ICRA conference with a guy named Jesse Levinson, who is now my CTO at Zoox.
About that, yeah. So everything turned out just fine. That's great. All right. So my next question is, why did you decide to major in applied math?
Right. So I touched on that already. The idea being that the faculty to student ratio is higher in math than it is in engineering or computer science. That you still learn a lot of the things that are not only necessary for an advanced technical career, but you learn how to go above and beyond just the base technical portion. That's actually worked out better than I thought in my current career. I'll be in meetings discussing requirements for a new feature, and I'll be one of the few people in the room who know how to approach things from a basic logical proof perspective. And that means that I sort of run that meeting.
That's great. All right. So I think we talked about we also just covered how did you find your internship and special projects. I think you touched on that as well. All right. So tell us a little bit about the benefits for you of attending SJSU.
Mm-hmm. So same reason as going with the math department in general. You have a much better faculty to student ratio. I guess even in the engineering department relative to other schools, that's true. So there are more resources available to you than the neighboring schools in the area.
Yeah, that's great. So I want to ask you about working remotely now that we're in this situation together. What skills and insights are you gaining from working remotely now?
So the biggest hurdle that I think most people have had to overcome is that a lot of communication moves text-based, like over Slack. And that was already happening, just at a much slower pace.
Yeah.
Now, 99% of the words I say are typed, and it's so hard to convey emotion over text that you either have to be like very straight all the time, or you have to say, hey, let's jump into a Zoom, let's have a face-to-face meeting so we can discuss this, because otherwise, if someone is feeling scared about the conversation you're having, which happens quite frequently, that conversation can go very poorly. They'll assume that you meant to slight them when in fact you're just stating a fact.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's been a struggle. It's very challenging for sure. So my next question is, tell me a little bit about how you're networking today, because something we really stress with students is the importance of networking, especially now, again, since we're all working remotely. So what are you doing currently and what do you recommend?
Yeah, so I don't have to do much networking for myself anymore.
Right.
Really, it's what kind of networking do I see works with me? Like when I see a LinkedIn request to connect, am I going to actually look at it? And I think the difference there is made by the comment that you add to that request. If you can grab the attention, like, I noticed you worked on this, that's something we have in common, can we talk about it? That's something fun for me to do. So I'm more likely to go ahead and not just accept the invitation, but also like have a phone call with the person to discuss that project they did. And that opens the door to, is this person a low enough risk to bring on site for an interview?
What about any like professional organizations or anything that you can think of off the top to math major, applied math majors or anybody for that matter?
Right. I don't actually know how conferences are running these days with shelter in place, but that would be my go-to normally. So if you find something you're interested in, find the most narrowly defined conference on that topic, then everyone you meet there is a potential contact because they all share that common interest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, That is true. That is true. All right. So my final question is, what advice do you have right now? What would be your advice for students in the College of Science that are trying to get through this year and these times? What would you advise they do?
I think that the normal advice of do projects, put those projects on your resume, make your resume look like you want it to look, is still good advice. Having that extra connection with people that you try to approach on LinkedIn is going to help. And then find other ways that you can get in people's way so that they see you. If conferences aren't having in-person conferences, but they're having some online conference, find a way to either maybe do a lightning talk, or volunteer in a way that puts you in front and center somehow. I know, like, when I would volunteer at conferences, doing the registration was helpful because then you meet a large fraction of the people entering the conference.
That's right.
I don't know what they would do for online registration. I'm sure there's no person involved in that, but
yeah.
Just brainstorm ways to put your face in front of other people.
I think that's great. All right. All right. Well, Jake, thank you so much for your time today. I really, really appreciate it. And thanks for all your advice for College of Science Spartans. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Thank you so much.
Good luck. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.